The greatest test of a man is not how he acts when things are easy, but how he stands when the storms come. My friends, let that sink in. Because whether you know it or not, every single day, life, and yes, people, are testing you. They're watching to see if you'll bend, if you'll break, if you'll fold, just to keep the peace. And here's the truth nobody tells you. The second you show that you can be shaken, you've already lost. Stay with me, because today we're going to break down what it really means to win when they test you. But before we dive in, smash that like button, subscribe, and join me here, because I promise you, the wisdom we're about to unlock is going to shift how you see every relationship from this day forward. Hey folks, imagine this. Picture a mountain in the middle of a storm. Lightning cracks, rain pours, the winds howl so loud you can't even hear your own thoughts. The trees around it, they sway, they bend, some even snap. But that mountain, it doesn't move an inch. That's you, at least that's who you're supposed to be when someone throws a test your way. Because tests are nothing more than storms. They're emotional hurricanes sent to see whether you're the tree that breaks or the mountain that stands. But most men, and I say this with a heavy heart, most men fail. They think the way to pass the test is to over-explain, to prove themselves, to bend until their spine snaps. They think, if I just show her how much I care, if I just prove I'm good enough, she'll stop testing me. But folks, that's a lie. The more you chase her approval, the more you bleed out your respect. You don't win tests by explaining, you win them by embodying. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the game right there. Tests are never about the words you say, they're about the energy you carry. Because people don't really care about your excuses, your lists of reasons, your justifications. They care about whether you can hold your frame when everything around you is shaking. Let me put it in plain terms. Imagine you're playing poker and someone keeps bluffing, waiting to see if you'll crack. The moment you fidget, sweat, fold too early, they own you. But if you sit there calm, unreadable, unbothered, suddenly the bluff loses all power. Tests in relationships are the same thing. They're bluffs. And the second you stop reacting, you win. And here's the fun part. Once you get this, once you really start living it, you'll notice how the energy flips. Suddenly, the person testing you isn't laughing anymore. Suddenly, they're the ones wondering, why can't I shake him? Why doesn't he bend like everyone else? And just like that, the power shifts. My friends, that's not arrogance. That's discipline. That's the calm in the storm. That's what makes you unforgettable. So, let me break a lie right here. Passing the test isn't about being heartless. It's not about being cold. It's about being so steady in who you are that you don't need anyone's approval to stand tall. Because the truth is this, a person can only respect you if they can't control you. And respect, real respect, is the foundation of love, of attraction, of loyalty. So today, I'm asking you to step into that truth, to stop breaking yourself down to win someone else's favor, to stop folding every time a storm comes, to stand like that mountain, unmoved, unshaken, untouchable. Write this in the comments right now. I am unshakable. That's your affirmation. Because once you believe it, you'll start living it. And once you live it, the tests don't scare you anymore. Stay with me, my friends. We're just getting started. Press that like button, hit subscribe, and let's walk into this together. Because when they test you like this, you win. Number 1. The nature of their tests. The measure of a man is not in how he comforts the calm, but in how he withstands the storm. My friends, this is where everything begins. You need to understand something most men miss. Tests are not random acts of cruelty. They are not just mood swings or mind games. They are measures. They are silent questions being thrown your way. Can I lean on you? Can I push against you without you breaking? Can you hold steady when everything feels uncertain? These tests are the fire that forges or exposes your character. Picture this: a bridge hanging over a raging river. The wood groans, the ropes sway, the wind howls. You put one foot forward and you feel the weight test every knot, every plank. That bridge doesn't get praised for how it looks on a sunny day. It gets judged by whether it holds when the storm comes. That's exactly how life, relationships, and people test you. They don't want to see you shine when everything is easy. They want to know if you can hold when everything is hard. But here's the tragedy: most men crumble under that weight. They think the way to pass the test is to bend so much that nothing breaks. They think, if I just agree, if I just explain, if I just give more of myself, maybe they'll stop testing me. Folks, that's the lie that keeps men weak. The truth is, the more you bend, the less respect you earn. The more you fold, the less value you hold. Tests aren't passed by surrender, they're passed by standing. Ask yourself this: why do they test me? Why can't they just trust who I am from the beginning? The answer, my friends, is that trust is not given, it's proven. A soldier isn't trusted with a sword until he trains with it. A captain isn't trusted with a ship until he sails it through storms. And you will not be trusted until you've shown you can stay grounded when someone tries to pull you off balance. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." That's exactly what tests do. They reveal. They peel back the mask, the smooth words, the polished surface, and they show what's underneath. And what's underneath, weakness or strength, that's what decides whether you pass or fail. Think of a lion sitting in the tall grass. A cub might bat at him, bite at his mane, poke him over and over. Does the lion roar and chase the cub? No. He doesn't even move. He knows who he is. He doesn't need to prove it with noise. His very stillness, his calm, communicates power. That's how you need to be when they test you. Not frantic, not explaining, not defending, just being. Because when you don't flinch, you send a message louder than words. I am unshakable. Now let's face the fear. Why is it so hard to stand still in the storm? Because deep down, fear whispers lies into your ear. Fear tells you, if you don't give in, you'll lose them. If you don't explain yourself, they'll misunderstand. If you don't prove your worth, they'll walk away. That fear is the chain that keeps men enslaved. And the more you believe it, the more you let others dictate how you move, think, and live. But here's the truth that fear doesn't want you to know. Strength doesn't lose respect. It earns it. Calm doesn't drive them away. It pulls them closer. Boundaries don't destroy love. They purify it. Because respect is the soil where love grows. And without respect, love withers every single time. Imagine trying to light a fire in the rain. If the wood is soaked, no flame will catch. But if the wood is dry, even a spark becomes a blaze. Your character is that wood. If it's soaked with insecurity, no test will ever allow attraction or respect to grow. But if it's dry and steady, untouchable, you become the fire that lights everything around you. The hardest part about passing a test is realizing it's not about performance, it's about presence. You don't pass by saying the perfect thing. You pass by being the perfect thing. Steady, sure, silent in your strength. That's what they're looking for. Not a man who reacts, but a man who remains. So the next time they throw doubt at you, the next time they pull away, the next time they stir chaos just to see what you'll do, remember the bridge, remember the lion, remember the fire. Don't explain, don't collapse. Don't hand over your peace just to win approval. Stand, breathe, hold your ground. Write this in the comments right now. I rise above tests. Show yourself, show me, and show the world that you are no longer the man who bends at every gust of wind. You are the mountain, not the tree. The fire, not the ash. The lion, not the cub. Stay with me, my friends, because what comes next will tear down the biggest lies men believe when they face these tests. And once you see through those lies, you'll never fear being tested again. Number 2. The lie most men believe. If you live for their approval, you'll die from their rejection. My friends, this is the knife that cuts the deepest, because most men don't even know they're carrying this lie inside of them. The lie says, if I just agree, if I just go along, if I just keep them happy, everything will be fine. The lie whispers that pleasing is winning, that explaining is strength, that compliance builds love. But here's the harsh reality. Every time you fold to keep the peace, you lose a piece of yourself. And over time, those little losses add up until you don't even recognize the man staring back at you in the mirror. Picture this with me. Imagine a candle in a dark room. At first it burns bright, lighting up the space, commanding attention. But every time someone walks by and asks for a piece of the flame, the candle gives a little more of itself away. One spark here, another there. Before long, the candle isn't shining anymore. It's just a stub of wax, burnt out, forgotten. That's what happens when you keep bending to pass their tests. You think you're buying love, but you're really burning out your own flame. Why do so many fall for this lie? Because fear convinces them that conflict equals loss. Fear tells them, if I disagree, they'll leave. If I stand firm, I'll scare them away. If I don't give in, they'll think I don't care. And so men build a habit of shrinking themselves to keep someone else comfortable. But here's the irony. Every time you do that, you make yourself smaller in their eyes. And the smaller you become, the less they can respect you. Seneca once wrote, "He who seeks approval has already sold himself." Let that pierce your chest for a moment. Because when you make approval your mission, you're no longer living as yourself. You're living as their creation. You're no longer a man. They've turned you into clay, shaping you however they want, molding you to fit their moods. And my friends, clay can't lead. Clay can't inspire. Clay can't command respect. Think of a tree in a storm. The weak tree bends so low that it looks like it's surviving, but after the storm it's twisted, broken, leaning. The strong tree, it sways but never loses its shape. Which one inspires awe? Which one do people look at and say, that's strength? Tests work the same way. They're not looking for the man who bends until he breaks. They're looking for the one who can take the wind without losing his roots. Here's where men get it wrong. They confuse silence with weakness, and they confuse explanation with strength. So they explain, and explain, and explain, hoping the more they talk, the more they'll be understood. But folks, let me break a hard truth. The more you explain, the weaker you look. Why? Because real value doesn't defend itself. Diamonds don't argue with glass to prove they're stronger. They just shine, and glass breaks when it tries to match them. The lie also tells you that your worth is negotiable. That if they test you and you pass by pleasing, you'll prove you're worth keeping. But your worth is not a coupon to be bargained over. It's not a discount you hand out when someone threatens to walk away. Your worth is inherent, unshakable, undeniable. The moment you believe otherwise, you've already surrendered the battle. Let me give you another picture. Imagine a king in his throne room. People come to him with requests, complaints, demands. Does the king jump up every time, scrambling to explain himself? Does he leave his throne to chase approval from the crowd? No. He stays seated, calm, listening if needed, speaking when necessary. Because the king knows leaving the throne is losing the throne. And that's the very thing most men do. They abandon their throne every time a test appears. Now, why is this so difficult to break free from? Because deep down, many men tie their self-worth to acceptance. Childhood, past relationships, society. They've been conditioned to believe, if they're happy, I'm valuable. If they're upset, I've failed. And so they chase smiles, they chase validation, they chase reassurance like beggars chasing crumbs. But you're not a beggar, my friends. You were never meant to be. The truth, the one that burns away the lie, is this. The more you stop chasing approval, the more respect you command. The less you explain, the more your presence speaks. The less you bend, the more you're trusted to stand. Because approval gained through weakness is always temporary, but respect earned through strength is permanent. So the next time you feel that urge to over-explain, to bend, to compromise yourself just to avoid conflict, pause. Breathe. Remember the candle. Remember the tree. Remember the king. Ask yourself, am I living in the lie, or am I standing in the truth? Because when you stand in truth, you don't need their nod. You don't need their applause. You already know who you are. Write this in the comments right now. I live above approval. Let it be a declaration, not just a phrase. Show yourself, show the world, and remind your own heart that you're done living in the lie. Stay with me, because next, we're going to dive into the magnet that pulls everything closer. Emotional stability. And once you master it, you'll stop being tested as often, because they'll already know you can't be shaken. Number 3. Emotional stability is magnetic. Never waste your peace by trading it for someone else's storm. My friends, this is where most men crumble. They think love means absorbing every mood, every shift, every wave that comes crashing toward them. They believe connection is built by mirroring emotions, by matching energy, by making sure they're never out of sync. But here's the problem. When you let someone else's chaos decide your state, you're no longer the man leading the moment. You've become a passenger in their storm. And nobody, I mean nobody, respects a man who can't steer his own ship. Picture this, a lighthouse standing tall on the edge of a cliff. The waves roar, the lightning flashes, the winds scream like banshees in the night. The ships out at sea, they're being tossed left and right, desperate for direction. But the lighthouse, it doesn't sway, it doesn't panic, it doesn't dim its light to match the storm. It shines steady, constant, unmoved. That's why the ships trust it. That's why they seek it. Not because it shares their chaos, but because it rises above it. That's the kind of presence you need to become. That's emotional stability. Now let me hit you with the lie that wrecks most men. If they're upset, I have to be upset. If they're angry, I need to defend. If they're silent, I need to panic. That's not love. That's slavery to emotion. That's you abandoning your ground to chase a feeling you were never meant to control. And the more you do it, the weaker you look. Because here's the truth, stability is magnetic. The person who can stand calm when everything is spinning becomes the anchor everyone secretly wants to hold on to. Think about it. Who do you admire more, the man who erupts the second someone pokes him, or the man who can hear the same words, feel the same pressure, and still breathe deep, still stay collected, still move with intention? One is reactive, a puppet dancing on strings. The other is sovereign, untouchable. And attraction, my friends, lives in sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the blueprint right there. You can't control their moods, but you can control whether or not those moods infect you. The moment you stop being dragged into every emotional current, you stop being tested as much, because they realize storms can't sink you. Why do men fail here? Fear again. The fear that if they don't match emotions, they'll look cold. The fear that if they don't react, they'll look like they don't care. But let's break that lie. Emotional stability isn't coldness, It's clarity. It's not indifference. It's influence. Because when you stay grounded, you actually give others a safe place to return to when their storm dies down. You become the calm they crave, not the chaos they control. Imagine you're playing chess. If every time your opponent moves a piece, you slam your pieces around, react instantly, and panic over every shift, you're not playing chess, you're being played. But if you sit back, study the board, and move with calm precision, suddenly the game bends to your rhythm. That's how emotional stability works. You stop dancing to their tune, and suddenly they start moving to yours. But I won't sugarcoat it. This is hard. Because everything inside you screams, do something, react, fix it now. Your ego wants to defend, your fear wants to please, your pride wants to fight. But the strongest move you can make is to hold your center, to listen without absorbing, to acknowledge without drowning, to respond, not react. That's where respect is born. Think of water in a glass. Shake the glass, and the water ripples. Slam it down, and it spills. But freeze that water, turn it to ice, and suddenly no amount of shaking moves it. That's what you must become. Ice in a world of spilled water, still, solid, unmoved. And here's the beauty. When you become this man, tests start working in your favor. Instead of pushing you down, they start building you up. Because every storm you endure without breaking adds another layer of strength. Every wave you resist makes your foundation harder to crack. And over time, people stop testing you, not because they gave up, but because they realized you can't be shaken. So, my friends, remember this. Storms don't expose weakness in the stable man. They expose his power. Don't trade your peace for someone else's panic. Don't surrender your calm to win approval. Be the lighthouse, be the anchor, be the ice. That's how you win the test. Write this in the comments right now. I am a calm power. Show it, claim it, live it. Because once you step into that energy, you stop chasing approval and start commanding respect. Stay with me, because next, we're going to dive into something even deeper, the way boundaries separate the respected from the forgotten. And once you learn this, you'll never allow disrespect to live in your space again. Number 4. Boundaries over begging. What you allow is what will continue. My friends, this is where the real test of your strength shows up. Because it's easy to talk about respect, it's easy to quote wisdom, but when that line gets crossed, when someone pushes you past what should be acceptable, what do you actually do? Most men fail here. They beg, they negotiate, they explain, they plead for things to get better, and in doing so, they trade away the very respect they were trying to protect. You cannot beg your way into respect. You can only enforce it. Picture this, a stone wall standing tall in the middle of a village. The people rely on it to keep invaders out. The first time someone pushes against it, nothing happens. It stands. But imagine if the wall started crumbling at the first shove, the first tap, the first push. Do you think anyone would trust that wall to protect them again? Of course not. They'd abandon it. That's what happens when you allow disrespect to live in your space. The first time you let it slide, you tell them, this wall doesn't really hold. Push harder next time. The lie most men believe is this: if I just give them one more chance, if I just wait for them to realize, if I just explain how much it hurts, they'll stop. But my friends, that's not how human nature works. People don't change when you beg them to. They change when you force them to by enforcing consequences. Begging is weakness disguised as patience, and weakness never commands respect. Think of fire meeting stone. The fire can rage, spark, flare up, but the stone doesn't move, doesn't cry out, doesn't negotiate. It simply remains. That's what you need to become when disrespect touches you. The moment you start pleading, you've already surrendered the test. The man who stands silent, who removes access without a fight, without a debate, that's the man who gets remembered. Now I can already hear the questions forming in your mind. But what if they get angry? What if they call me stubborn? What if they leave? Let me break that fear for you. Anger doesn't destroy respect. Weakness does. Stubbornness doesn't ruin attraction. Spinelessness does. And if they leave because you enforced boundaries, then they were never yours to begin with. A person who truly values you will respect the lines you draw, even if they push against them in the moment. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." That's what boundaries give you. Freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from walking on eggshells, freedom from being tested endlessly because they know the moment they cross the line, the door closes. No second debate, no 10th apology, just silence. Let me give you another image. Imagine a king on his throne. If someone walks in and spits at his feet, does the king argue with him? Does he beg the man to respect him? No. Guards remove the fool instantly. The king doesn't lower himself to debate. His boundary is enforced through action, not explanation. That's how you need to move. Because every time you argue with disrespect, you step off your throne and hand over your crown. But I won't pretend this is easy. Enforcing boundaries requires one thing most men don't have: the willingness to lose. If you're terrified of losing them, you'll tolerate anything. You'll swallow every insult, every act of disregard, every test they throw your way, because your fear chains you to their approval. But when you're willing to lose, you become untouchable, because now every line you draw has weight. You've made peace with the idea that you'd rather stand alone than kneel with someone who disrespects you. That energy, it's rare. It's powerful, and deep down, it's irresistible. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop begging for respect is the moment you start earning it. The moment you stop pleading to be valued is the moment they start seeing your value. And the moment you walk away from disrespect without hesitation is the moment they realize you're not like the rest. You're not the man who folds. You're not the man who explains himself to exhaustion. You're the man who acts. So the next time they cross the line, don't reach for words. Don't reach for explanations. Reach for silence. Reach for distance. Reach for action. Show them with clarity. You don't get to treat me that way. Because respect isn't built on lectures. It's built on limits. Write this in the comments right now. I protect my peace. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. Because when you declare it, when you live it, you become the man they cannot shake, cannot manipulate, and cannot forget. Stay with me, because next we're going to dig into the fuel that makes you unstoppable, purpose louder than their presence. And when you understand this, you'll never trade your mission for anyone's approval again. Number 5, purpose before approval. A man without purpose is a ship without a rudder. He drifts until he sinks. My friends, this is where many men lose the battle before it even begins. They meet someone, they feel that spark, and suddenly everything that once gave them life, ambition, discipline, drive, mission, gets placed on the back burner. Their dreams collect dust while they chase smiles. Their goals get softer while they chase validation. And at first, it might feel good. At first, they might think, look how much I care. Look how much I'm giving. Surely they'll see my devotion, but devotion without direction is just distraction. And distraction kills respect. Picture this. A roaring fire in the middle of a dark forest. It blazes strong, lighting up everything around it. Travelers are drawn to it, comforted by its warmth, mesmerized by its glow. But what happens when that fire forgets to feed itself? What happens when it stops consuming wood and fuel and instead tries to burn by pleasing the people gathered around it? Slowly it dims, the warmth fades, the light flickers, and before long the fire is gone. The people who once gathered, they walk away, because nobody gathers around ashes. That's what happens when you put approval above purpose. You think you're keeping them close, but you're actually driving them away. Because deep down, they don't want to be your purpose. They want to be drawn into a man who already has one. Here's the lie most men believe: if I make them the center of my world, they'll stay. No, my friends, that's not love, that's worship. And worship suffocates attraction. They don't want a man orbiting their every mood. They want a man with gravity so strong they feel pulled into his orbit. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." That's the secret. Your purpose is your why. It's the fire in your chest, the fuel in your lungs, the steel in your spine. Without it, every test feels heavier, every storm feels bigger, every silence feels scarier. But when you have it, nothing shakes you, because you know who you are and you know what you're here to do. Think about it like this. Imagine a captain on a ship. The sea is rough, the winds are wild, and the crew looks to him for direction. If he panics, if he abandons the map and starts chasing approval from his crew, the ship is lost. But if he grips the wheel, keeps his eyes on the horizon, and steers with certainty, even if the crew doubts him in the moment, they'll follow him. Because men with direction command respect, while men without it beg for it. Why do men give up their purpose so easily? Because fear whispers again. Fear tells them, if I keep working late, they'll think I don't care. If I stay focused on my dream, they'll feel neglected. If I put my mission first, they'll leave. But let me break that lie. They don't leave because you're on your mission. They leave because you abandoned it. They don't lose respect because you're focused. They lose respect because you folded. Nothing kills attraction faster than a man who trades his path for approval. Here's the paradox. The more you place your purpose first, the more valuable your attention becomes. When you give it, it means something. It's a choice, not a duty. And choices are precious. Duties are expected. Which one do you think carries more weight? Imagine a man building a monument stone by stone. It takes years, maybe decades, and in the middle of it, someone walks by and says, "Pay attention to me. Forget your monument. Make me your mission." If he drops everything, the monument never rises. He ends up with nothing to show but regret. But if he keeps building, the monument stands tall long after everyone else is gone. That monument is his legacy. And legacy outlives approval every single time. So here's the truth. Your mission must always be louder than their presence. Not because you don't care, not because you're cold, but because a man who lives with purpose creates a life so rich, so magnetic, that others naturally want to be part of it. They respect it. They're drawn to it. They know they can't replace it. That's how you become unforgettable. Write this in the comments right now. My purpose comes first. Show yourself, show the world, and remind your own heart that you're done trading your mission for approval. Stay with me, my friends, because next we're going to talk about the weapon that makes every test powerless, the art of non-reactivity. And once you master this, you'll move in silence while the world spins in noise. Number 6. The power of non-reactivity. The man who angers you controls you. My friends, let that one sink deep into your bones, because this is the battlefield where most men lose the war without even knowing it. They think strength is about fighting every challenge, answering every word, reacting to every move. They think being quick to defend or quick to respond shows power. But here's the truth. Every time you react, you hand over control. Every time you let them pull your strings, you've shown them you're a puppet, not the master of your own frame. Picture this for a moment. You're standing in front of a lake on a perfectly calm day. The water is still, glass-like, reflecting the sky above. Toss a pebble into it, and the ripples spread wide, disturbing the reflection. Now imagine tossing a boulder. The chaos is even bigger. That's you when you're reactive. Every pebble, every word, every test thrown your way sends ripples across your spirit. And here's the problem. If your peace can be shaken that easily, people will never see you as strong. They'll see you as surface level. But if your mind is like the depths of the ocean, untouched by pebbles, unmoved by stones, then you become something different. Something rare. The lie most men believe is this: if I react, they'll see I care. If I argue, they'll know I won't be disrespected. If I explode, they'll know I'm serious. But folks, that's not strength. That's insecurity in disguise, because when you explode, you show them your buttons, and once they know your buttons, they'll keep pressing them, not because they hate you, but because they can. Think of water again. Try to punch the surface of a river. Your fist just glides through. No matter how hard you strike, the river doesn't break. That's non-reactivity. It's not weakness, it's untouchable strength. Because when you refuse to play the game of emotional tug-of-war, you win without pulling. Marcus Aurelius said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Things you can't control are not your concern. That's the essence of non-reactivity. You don't need to respond to every look, every silence, every sarcastic remark. You don't need to prove yourself in every moment. The man who picks and chooses his battles carefully always commands more respect than the man who fights everything. Now, let's be real. Why is it so hard to stay non-reactive? Because your ego screams at you. The ego whispers, don't let them disrespect you. Don't let them win. Don't let them think you're weak. So you react, you defend, you argue. And every time you do, you reveal that your emotions can be hijacked. But true power is not about fighting to prove respect. It's about carrying yourself in such a way that respect is the only option. Let's use another picture. Imagine a poker table. Everyone's watching each other's faces, waiting for a flinch, a twitch, a bead of sweat. The man who reacts gives the game away. But the man with a calm face, the man who never shows his hand, that's the man everyone fears. Non-reactivity works the same way. The less you show, the more people wonder. The less you react, the more powerful you appear. But hear me clearly. It doesn't mean silence forever. Non-reactivity doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or accept nonsense. It means you choose when and how you respond. It means you don't waste energy on every little test. You wait, you assess, and when you move with precision, not panic. Here's the paradox. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is magnetic. If they can script your every move, ignore you and you blow up, tease you and you defend, question you and you panic, you're boring, you're forgettable. But when you don't move the way they expect, when you carry calm energy no matter what storm they bring, you become unforgettable. So the next time someone tries to push you into reacting, pause, breathe, let the silence hang in the air. Because silence itself can be an answer. Stillness itself can be a declaration. When you don't give them what they want, you show them something stronger. You show them control. Write this in the comments right now. I control my frame. Say it, declare it, own it. Because when you live it, no storm can pull you under, no test can break you, and no one can play you like a puppet again. Stay with me, because next we're going even deeper, into the secret weapon most men fear, but few ever master, detachment. And once you grasp this, you'll carry an energy so rare it becomes unforgettable. Number 7. Detachment is the secret weapon. He who needs nothing holds everything. My friends, this is the point where everything shifts. Because all the strength we've spoken about, the boundaries, the stability, the non-reactivity, none of it lasts if you're chained by fear. And the deepest fear men face, the fear of loss, the fear of being left behind, the fear that if they walk away, if they enforce the line, if they stand tall, they'll end up alone. But here's the truth. The man who fears losing is already lost. Imagine a bird in a cage. The cage door opens, but the bird doesn't fly. Why? Because it's grown comfortable in captivity. It fears the sky more than it values its wings. That's how most men live. They stay in cages built by approval, by validation, by dependence. They think if they step out, they'll fall. But the truth is, you were born with wings. You were meant for the sky. And until you detach from the cage, you'll never know the power of your own flight. Detachment isn't coldness, it isn't cruelty, it isn't saying, I don't care about anyone. No, detachment is freedom. It's standing in the truth that you were whole before they came into your life, and you'll be whole if they leave. It's knowing that your worth is not tied to their presence, their mood, or their approval. And when you carry that energy, something incredible happens. They respect you more, not less, because you've shown them you are not owned. Here's the lie most men believe. If I love deeply, I must cling tightly. If I care, I must never let go. If I detach, I'll lose them. But my friends, love without detachment is possession, and possession always destroys respect. The tighter you grip, the more they want to escape. The more you fear loss, the more you bend to avoid it. And every time you bend, you break a little more. Let me hit you with this. The man who can walk away at any moment is the man they can never control. That energy is intoxicating. Why? Because most men can't do it. Most men are trapped in need. They compromise, they tolerate, they beg because they can't imagine life without approval. But the rare man who says, I want you, but I don't need you, that man stands apart. That man is unforgettable. Think of the ocean. It doesn't chase rivers to flow into it. It doesn't beg for raindrops to fall. It simply is. Vast, deep, infinite. And because it needs nothing, everything flows toward it eventually. That's detachment. When you stop chasing, when you stop needing, when you stop begging, people feel the weight of your presence in a way they never did before. Yes, it's difficult, because your mind screams, what if I lose them? What if they find someone else? What if I'm not enough? But the truth is this: if they can leave, let them. If they can disrespect, let them. Because every time you choose yourself over fear, you prove that your value isn't conditional. And nothing is more attractive, more powerful, more magnetic than a man who cannot be broken by loss. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Detachment is bravery. Detachment is freedom. Detachment is the courage to say, I was enough before you, and I will be enough after you. And once you carry that in your heart, every test loses its power, because they can't use fear to control you anymore. So here's what I want you to declare. Write this in the comments right now. I am free. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. Because once you live that truth, nothing and no one can own you. You'll stand as the rare man who holds his ground, who commands respect, who attracts, not because he chases, but because his energy is undeniable. And if this message hit you hard, if it opened your eyes, if it challenged you in a way you know you needed, then press that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more men step into this energy, the fewer cages we'll see, and the more mountains will rise. Stay strong, my friends. Be unshakable. Be free.